the lady in front of you here with me. Claire, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited about joining MP for weekly review discussions. You've probably seen me on other friends' videos. Don the Crack and Wit, Tony Teflon. I usually appear with MP, so it's not unusual that we're doing the review discussions together. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've got one video on my channel. It's not a Song of Ice and Fire related. Feel free to check it out if you want to check it out. I may do some the Song of Ice and Fire content on my channel. Yeah, that's me.
All right. And just as I said, it's my first review, but hopefully it will be our first review and continue on throughout the season with each other. Doing this, Claire is going to be much better at moving things along than I will. I tend to stumble and ramble over everything as I'm doing now, but I will be hogging her for a little while, at least, anyways. All right, did you want to pick us off? Start us off?
Yeah, I suppose it's going to be helpful to say that this will be a spoiler-heavy review series aimed at book readers. So there'll be lots of spoilers and references from the books. One of the things that we thought would be a good idea to score the episodes, so obviously we'll have different scores, but I thought it'd be interesting to score each episode in the season via the links on a mine. So one link would be a bit of a rubbish episode, not great, 5 being amazeballs. So what would you say, how many links would you award this episode, MP?
All in all, my first reaction to it, I was let down, but I did in my second and third rewatch pick up a lot more. Just on entertainment value alone, I would have scored it probably a 2 out of 5, 2.5. After digging into it, I'm going to give it a 4, but I think that's generally going to be the case all the time with me. I look into it a lot and see all sorts of amazing things, so I'm usually never disappointed with the show.
I would say I'm going to award this episode 3 links. I think my rationale behind that would be, I suppose I'm making comparisons to other season openers, so I don't think it was the best. You know, we all know that it's very much a kind of average roundup season opener, particularly I think this one. And oh God, we're gonna have to do that bit again. Sorry, I'm just okay. I'll stop there and start again where I okay, sorry. I would award this episode 3 links on the Maester's chain. I think it's an average roundup season opener if you compare it to other season openers. I always compare back to season 1 because that's what grabbed me and that's what made me want to read the books. And that very first episode, season 1, was it for me. That would have been awarded 5. I would say 3 because I think the acting was very good. I particularly think the actress who played young Cersei was fabulous. I also, yeah, I think I get some criticism for this, but I've never really thought that Kit Harington's acting was particularly an accurate portrayal of Jon. However, I have to say I thought his acting was pretty exceptional in this episode. So thumbs up for Kit Harington. I think he's getting much better. I did have fears about watching this particular season, so I think that's probably reflected in the score as well. More than any other season, as we know, this is a bigger departure from the books. So full of anticipation and a bit of fear, really, going forward. Just confusion, really, because as we know, it's covering elements of sort of 3 books and possibly storylines going forward beyond what we know as book readers. So I would give it a solid average, straight down the middle, 3 links of the Maester's chain.
All right, I should point out that the Maester's chain thing is Claire's idea. I like it though. It's pretty good. It's different, and I appreciate different, that's for sure. One thing I did notice, and before we get into the actual review, is I feel that there is a certain element of chastising, I guess you could say, about, and this is a broad concept, and it's probably just something that was in my head because of the episodes getting leaked and just thinking about what it is that we all do when we're reviewing these shows or creating theories or putting ourselves out there to the world. And I just felt like there was this underlying tone, and I'm saying this now because I don't really want to get into it with the reviews, but there's elements in the episode where it feels like D&D are sort of hinting towards us, like, we see what you're doing, and we know. Now I don't know if they're happy with it or they're against it. It's hard to say in my weird messed up brain, but I did see elements of that.
I mean, I don't know if it makes a great deal of difference. Personally, I haven't watched the leaked episodes, and I'll be watching them week by week,
Yeah,
so it makes no difference to me whatsoever. I do know, I read in the newspaper here today that this season, despite the leaks and it being like massive numbers of people downloading those first 4 episodes, it was still the most watched episode here in the UK in terms of viewing numbers for the TV show. So I don't think they're going to be really too upset about it.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, and I could see that absolutely. I just, like I say, I think it's just there's little subtle hints that there's nods to what we do and what's happened because of the show overtaking the books or the books being delayed and us doing what we do before the next books are coming out. That it was kind of interesting to me, and I don't want to get into it on the
I know what you mean, though.
review,
It's kind of like the leaks represent us leaping into the future and it's speeding ahead.
yes, and we will talk about that fairly soon, as you probably should guide us through the very first scene.
Okay. Well, before we get to the first scene, I think it's worth mentioning that in the opening title sequence of the map, I was excited to see Bravos, which I know we've seen before, Bravos and Dawn on the map, but we didn't. I'm guessing that when we see Arya in Bravos, so when the episode that features Arya and the Sand Snakes, that possibly will get Bravos and Dawn on the map there. So that's just a kind of maybe later, hopefully. Okay, so the first scene, as we know, is the first flashback that we've ever had actually on Rose, which is Maggie the Frog. So I kind of guess this tries to set some context to adult Cersei's behaviour, as we know as viewers. So how we've watched her as viewers and book readers, obviously. It gives us a little bit of context into maybe what Cersei's motivations are. The only thing that I can say really about this particular scene is 2 things really. One, the appearance of Maggie the Frog was very different to what we expected in the book description.
Yes.
But I thought about this and I thought, I wonder if that was because it was kind of like she was in a resting witch state. So that was a kind of natural state. We wonder if she glamours herself to look warty and toady and ugly as a witch to kind of ward off in the woods. And then that made me think about kind of, blood magic, visions, kind of witchy woo type of stuff. Melisandre. So maybe it's the opposite. So Melisandre's old and possibly not particularly attractive, but she glamours herself as a very attractive young woman. Maybe Maggie the Frog does completely the opposite. So that's the thing really, that observation that I had in terms of Maggie's appearance.
It
Sorry, just one more thing for me in
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
scene was being disappointed that there was, there was no incident with her friend Melara, and suggestions that Cersei did something quite untoward. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm quite disappointed in that. I think it would have been good to see. Now, we didn't actually see them leave the tent, so I'm wondering if that leaves room for a second flashback later on. I don't know. It seems like the conversation was over unless they do something, spit in her face or something, then she throws all this other shit out at them. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
I do like your sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that memory, that particular memory for Cersei is referenced several times in the books, so maybe
Yes,
we will revisit that memory.
absolutely. It does come in more detail later on in the books rather than the first. It's just sort of reference. You don't really know what it's about. I should point out here that the reason, hopefully, that you're all looking at Clare right now is because how it was set up beforehand. When I start speaking, I'm looking at myself. This way I can look at her all the time. And I'm much more happy with everybody looking at Clare rather than myself anyways. In regards to your concept of Maggie, maybe perhaps glamoring herself as older, I think if you're at a fair, which it actually is in the books, you would want to appear more creepy looking. Now, I don't know if when they enter the tent and they say you're supposed to be, you have 3 eyes and cat's teeth or whatever, that's just a nod back to, sorry, we didn't give you the old lady, but we know that it's the case. What I did grasp from that, and I kind of stumbled across this because of the video that I just put up, when Sansa and Shay are on the docks, and they're arguing about the gang. Sansa chastises Shay and says that's, you can't just blurt out the truth. The truth is either terrible or boring. Cersei coming here says, what did she say?
Well,
You're not.
You're not terrible. You're not terrible. You're just boring.
You're supposed to have 3 eyes and cat's teeth. You're not terrifying. You're boring. Now, to that, and then she says, tell us our future. I'm going to have your 2 boring eyes gouged out. And Maggie just sort of looks at her and laughs. And I kind of look at that as this take of, you can gouge out my boring eyes, but the terrifying one, the 3rd eye, that's still going to be here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
I like that. Anything else to say about that scene?
Yeah, again, this is sort of this broad concept that I felt when I was watching this, and I'm not saying this is the case, but there probably is something terrifying, and I think maybe we feel it, maybe we don't, about looking into the future, and us as book readers and people that know a bit more of the story, we are trying to look ahead into the future of this story. And I think that if you can actually look into the future, that's got to be a terrifying concept.
Yeah.
Knowing what's coming your way is freaky, but you just have to deal with it. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next scene, which is
Cersei.
Cersei visiting Jaime in the set of Bay with Tywin. The only thing really I've got to say, a couple of observations from me, was I thought it was I was looking for Tywin to have his smile, his
Yes.
famous not smiling, but on the bier, on the kind of deathbed, in the set, in the books he was smiling, and it looked to me, those funny little pebble eyes that they put on the dead. It looked to me like he had a bit of a Mona Lisa smile going on, which I thought was a nice throwback and a kind of nod to book readers. I don't know if you can hear that, it's people really loud outside.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing that I noticed was when we were panning out from that scene, so it's possibly the last that we see of Tywin. Well, it is the last that we see of Tywin, that they played a few bars of the Reigns of Castamere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I really liked the way he actually, when they did pan out, the way he looked just lying there, the way they had him outfitted was fucking, sorry, I swear a lot, I'm sorry, but it was great. I dug into Cersei and her just sort of, laying it down on Jaime and all the things he said, like, it's your fault, this and that. And in essence, she's right. It is, but there are mitigating circumstances. Like, Jaime doesn't know that setting Tyrion free is going to kill Tywin, or in his mind, he's doing the right thing. He's saving his brother. So there's this element of shades of gray. Cersei sees things just one way, straightforward, and there's no getting her off that line. But if she would ever pause to just ask herself, well, what are the other people thinking? You get into this element of shades of gray, which is another concept that I think plays throughout this entire episode, especially getting more towards the end with Melisandre.
Well, it's a concept that plays throughout the entire series, I think.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm just going to check my notes here and see if there's anything else. I'm good with that one. If you are, we can try to keep moving it rather quickly.
Next, we move on to Tyrion's arrival. Tyrion and Varys' arrival in Pentos, and Tyrion tumbling out of the box. Just a couple of things really jumped out to me here. Obviously, the Targaryen loyalists indicating no Blackfire story arc in the future. I understand that, they need to streamline. It's going to be a bit to cut out the whole young Griff, Fagon story arc, but we'll see. Maybe it'll appear later on. Just Varys saying our country. It's like it surprised me that Tyrion didn't. Well, I would have thought that would have been challenged, because it's not his country. He doesn't come from Westeros. I don't think that's in the TV show, is it? I don't know. Does it say? He explains that he's not from Westeros earlier on in the series when he's talking to Tyrion. He talks about his background.
In the show or the books?
In the book he does, but in the show I'm just wondering.
I can't say for certain if he never mentions it in the show.
I just thought that was a bit confusing, and I'm wondering where that's going to go with Varys. The only other thing that really made me laugh was when he looked like he'd been on a rough ride, and when he got out of the box and he took a sip of wine and he threw up everywhere, and I just thought, to me, that was like a little mini foreshadowing of the rest of the season for Tyrion as being a really rough ride, and being sick was just a real indication that it's going to be a bit rough for Tyrion as we go forward.
I think you're spot on there. It's this, and being quite often heavy drinker myself, I don't really vomit much anymore, but there is a term called puke and rally. I think that's what Tyrion's going to do. he's gonna puke and he's gonna rally. We'll learn later on in the next scene with him that it appears he's gonna have an objective, a goal, but we'll get to that. The one thing that I don't even know if I first noticed it, but at least in my second rewatch, and I have to assume that somebody has said this before, but I believe that this is at least now the third reference we have of a dick in a box. This is, of course, just a dink in a box. Peter Dinklage. I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence. I think you refresh my memory that in the books you think that he was hidden in a barrel.
I think it was a barrel rather than a box.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and have a look. I can't. My memory's a bit shaky on that.
Did you take notice at all that when Varys is explaining to Tyrion how he's been trying to get a Targaryen on the throne, Tyrion doesn't even raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
He has no reaction. Varys just lays all this shit on him, and Tyrion just, oh, here's my, like, it doesn't even seem to register with him. He's just so fucking, like, just lost in himself, which is, yeah. Cool. I like Tyrion.
Well, I think that was.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say later on, and I know that we're doing this scene by scene, but later on when we see Varys and Tyrion again towards the end of the episode, and they're exchanging insults to each other, eunuch, half man, imp, they're kind of trading insults, and I just thought that's a way of them both kind of posturing to each other that the game's changed now. No, he's not a lord, and no, you're not on the you're not on the small council, master of whisperers. Everything's changed for both of them now. So that to me, when they were trading insults, that was a way of them kind of acclimatizing to their new, what they're facing in the future. They're not entitled anymore, so things are going to change for them. So yeah,
that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. There is another, this is a weird concept, but the aspect of pushing your shit out through the air holes and somebody else coming and taking your shit and throwing it overboard, besides the gross fucking metaphor parallel here, but it is another thing that I think that a lot of us say now. I'm not saying that we push out shit, but we are speaking our minds about this stuff, and people come and take it for what it is or discard it, throw it overboard. It can either be shit in your hand, or you toss it away, or you can look and see what lies inside. I don't know.
Could be. It could be. That's interesting.
Again, these are just weird places my head goes. I not saying that that's the point of anything like that, but it's what I pick from it. And I sat there for about 4 or 5 hours on my last.
We enjoy going there with you, so don't worry about that. Okay. Anything else to say on that initial arrival with Tyrion and Varys?
Just that, and this is something I picked up on a review show that I watched right afterwards. And it's a good point though, but Tyrion's no longer Lannister dressed. He's transformed. He's just a commoner now. So that goes to what you're saying. They have this new world ahead of them where Tyrion's not Tyrion anymore.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
I know. It's a nice little setup, I think. For this is very good. This is going to be very different for both of them. How long they're going to stick together, who knows? They may separate at some point, but we'll see. Okay, so the next scene we go to Meereen, where we see the Harpy being dragged off the top of the pyramid, and we see the Sons of the Harpy sending a very strong message to Daenerys.
Yes.
I'm taking out one of the Unsullied. So, I mean, I will talk about the only observations that I got from that, really, which is probably a bit peculiar, but I thought the name of the Unsullied who
White Rat.
White Rat, which I thought was quite interesting, an interesting name, because I thought if you're going to send a message to Daenerys, a strong message, and you know she's the pale-skinned Silver Queen, and if you were the leader of the Sons of the Harpy, you may think to yourself, let's get this white rat out of our city, in reference to Daenerys. I don't know, Mel, that's where my brain went. I thought, I wonder if there's a connection between the name White Rat and he was targeted to send a strong message of get out of our city. I don't know. The only other thing really that cropped up for me was the X between Missandei and Grey Worm. So there's a reigniting of that kind of possible love story that's going to go forward in for the rest of the season, which makes me think that we're setting up for something tragic happening for that couple in the future. But we will see. Maybe there's a little prediction there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I believe I've heard some of those predictions. Yes, absolutely. Which is, again, it's going to be interesting walking down this path of things happening that we don't necessarily know about. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, the White Rat scene was pretty damn cool. I mean, I enjoyed it. You get your nudity fix in there, of course, and then he just gets his throat slashed. So that's awesome. What about Dany and with Sir Barristan? Anything? Do you have any thoughts there?
No, not really.
No. And it's probably because I had to read it because it was spoken in Valyrian, but I think this might be the crux of the episode for me, and it's Dany saying that then they will have to learn to see things differently. Personally, I believe that within the show, like the show's good enough just to watch it as pure entertainment. If you really dig in deep to the show, it's so fucking good. Like it's so great, and I'm just always thrilled to watch it. And of course, there's concepts of that in the book. If you want to just read through the book, it's fine. You're gonna get great enjoyment out of it. But if you learn to see things differently, there's so much that you can pull from it. Grey Worm and Missandei, the questioning of why would they go there and Grey Worm not having an answer. In my opinion, it's this love is the death of duty concept we get like from the Night's Watch. Grey Worm's, he's unsure if he wants to open up to Missandei because then he has to care about something. Right now, his life is worthless. He's just got his duty, what he's been trained for all his life. He's a free man now, but he's still unsullied. He doesn't have any other purpose besides fighting, which that's tragedy in itself. And that's all my notes on that.
Okay. So the next scene, we go with our first visit to the Wall, and we have Jon, and I can't remember the name of the kid that.
I think it's Ollie, right?
Ollie, that's it. Yeah. So we can see them in the practice yard. I did think it was quite funny that Sam was just completely bigging himself up in front of Gilly about, I'm not a novice anymore, and how many people can say they've killed a White Walker. I thought that was quite funny. Now this is where I kind of depart from MP being very serious and into a lot of detail, and I go all kind of gossip columnist, because did you know that the actors who play Sam and Gilly are a couple in real life, so they're seeing each other in real life, and I think it really shows on the that's I don't know whether people will see that.
That's awesome.
The only other thing that I noticed, which again is a bit kind of gossip columny, is either the actress who plays Mel had some really weird makeup going on when she was going up in the lift with John to see Stannis at the top of the wall. Either she had some really strange makeup, or she's had something done. She's had a nose job or something. She's had some kind of plastic surgery, because her face just looks completely different in that particular scene. Anyway, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but yeah, that's my gossip column bit over.
Well played. When we see Mel, you actually watched this because you didn't have it airing yet, so you watched it via Skype on my television. And when we saw Mel going up, I actually turned and stuck my head in front of the tablet and was like, did they switch actresses? Like, is that a new actress? Like, she did. She looked, for a split second, I thought, holy shit, that's a new Mel.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I agree. I don't know if she's had work done or the makeup, but she did look good. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, she always looks good. She just looks slightly different. Anything to? I mean,
yeah,
I didn't get a great lot
here. The John, when we first see John beating the shit out of Ollie, I thought, oh, like this is the kid that killed Egret. I wasn't sure how the scene was going to play out, but in the end, of course, John's John. He's a nice guy. He's just teaching the kid, right? So that was pretty cool. Ollie and John, that little battle, it does link right up with Robin's training in the Vale later on.
Yeah.
They're fairly similar scenes. Sam neglecting his training is I laugh at that myself too, because we do know that I believe anyways his training comes in a different form later on, which I really hope we get to see this season. And mentions by Sir Alistair Thorne of these men need a firm hand, always have, they're nothing but poachers and thieves, not soldiers. Again, because I wrestle with what we do sometimes and putting ourselves out there, I get this general concept of we are picking apart George's baby. We are stealing from him and devouring it and putting our own takes out there. And I struggle with this on occasion. I enjoy doing it. It's something that I have fun with. I'm slow as fucking doing it, but I like to. Love is the death of duty. Don't let them send us away. Gilly's saying to Sam, don't let them send us away. Sam's response to her, don't worry, wherever you go, I go. But that's only her and him. There's another person in that thing that won't be going with them, which is sad in itself too. What about Melisandre? Did you have anything about going up to the top of the wall there with Stannis or anything like that?
No, not really. You know, it's good to see Stannis as always. Obviously Davos isn't there in the book, so that's a different angle. But you know, these things happen, and the TV show is different from the books. I mean that I didn't get a massive amount really, apart from, again, as I said, just a kind of average run through introduction to where everybody is. Obviously, there's that the introduction of what's going to happen to Mance, which we'll cover a bit later
on. Just a quick mention of when Melisandre asked John if he's a virgin. And do you think she's actually looking for information of whether or not he's a virgin, or was that a test? Was she just seeing if he's going to tell her the truth?
It's the worst chat-up line ever. That's all I can say.
Are you a virgin? Davos.
My name is Ellie, virgin.
Davos talking to John when he's like, I've spoken to your brothers. Many of them love you. And John's like, they're great men. I just wish when he said, many of them don't, and John just replies, "They're cunts," instead of just being silent. Just, I think that it would have been funny, but again, it's John. So I guess we are.
I'm just thinking. I wonder if that comment about some of your brothers love you, some don't. Maybe that's
Absolutely
setting up the elections and the running between the towers to. I mean, I don't know how that's going to play out in the TV show, but as we know, things progress for John in that respect. So
I'm actually quite looking forward to how they handle that in the show. I'm not sure. I don't know if we'll even get it in the books. Reading it, I see this dueling battle of, is it this or is it this? Without fucking beating a dead horse, it's a reference in my head to R plus L equals J. The scenarios that Sam brings to everybody is he can either be this guy or this guy, and he tells two different lies to, or I think maybe he only lies to one person. But it's I'm really looking forward to how they're going to play that out in the show.
I think the next 3 scenes, I would say we can kind of discuss them together, because we get Sansa and Littlefinger in the Vale, and we get Brienne and Pod clearly in the same region,
Sure.
and then we go back to Sansa and Littlefinger in the carriage. God, I mean, all I can say about this segment of the episode is we didn't get a great deal from the introduction of Sansa and Littlefinger. Watching, I just thought it was weird that Sweet Robin was training. That it just made no sense to me. Brienne and Pod, the only thing that I saw from that was obviously how lovingly she was tending to the Valyrian steel sword.
Sure.
But it just, when you see them talking, and then Pod turns around and looks at the road, and there's the carriage rolling past, and then it pans into Sansa and Littlefinger, and it just reminded me of all of those kind of like exciting but disappointing near misses that you get in the books. It was just a kind of visual representation of that yet again. Sansa is right there, and they were literally just talking about her. She's like feet away from you, and just off she goes. And when they're in the carriage, again a bit confusing for me, because a lot of the comments and observations about the trailer were Sansa in Winterfell, so there's that assumption, there's going to be some altercation with the Boltons. Maybe that happens. Maybe that happens later on in the series. Maybe they kind of go this way and then that way. But he made a real point of saying a land so far away from here, which to me immediately made me think, as in not in Westeros, a land, not a. I don't know. I suppose it's your interpretation of what land is. Winterfell could be a land very far from here.
Yeah, the North
He
could
also makes a
separate land.
yeah. He also makes a point of saying west. The furthest west.
Sansa says west.
Sansa says west, right? Okay. I mean, if they're going west from the Vale, I immediately thought, oh, they're going to Harrenhal, because he's the Lord of Harrenhal. But if you look on I was looking on my rail map, and Harrenhal actually is pretty much slap bang in the middle of Westeros. So it wouldn't be that much of a journey to get from the Vale to Harrenhal. However, it was west, but it's not that far west that you would make a big point of saying a land far away. If I look on my map, the furthest west that you can get within the parameters of Westeros is Pike. So, and I can't see them going to the Iron Islands. There would be no purpose in that. Would really just scramble my brains completely.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I don't know where they're going, but it didn't look as though he was alluding to getting to Winterfell very soon, unless he's telling fibs, which is always a possibility with Littlefinger.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, for sure.
we shall
Uh,
see.
we shall. Um, so we do have Robin undergoing his training. To me, the big takeaway is what Littlefinger's remembering when he's watching this, and I believe it's a certain duel in history. Um, he's never going to be much of a fighter, but he has other qualities. Now, Littlefinger doesn't have a name. Robin does. So, what Littlefinger's uses are going to be for Robin, I couldn't say, but I don't know if I really have much that. Oh, again, beating a dead horse, but Littlefinger saying, we're going to take you to a land far away where not even Cersei Lannister will be able to get her hands on you. If you change the wording around and go back in history to maybe I'll take him to a land far away where not even Robert Baratheon will be able to get his hands on you. You could have a reference to possibly Jon Snow right there. Just somebody in a land far away. I believe that's the common theory there.
Cool.
And yeah, the miss was quite hilarious. And going west from the Vale, they were supposed to be going to the Finger, so that would be eastish, I believe. So we don't know if they've even come to the King's Road yet, or they're still heading west to the King Road. The way it sounds is they're going to keep going west, but we don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
That's all I have to say about that.
Cool. Okay. So if we move on so we're getting towards the second part of the episode now, and we get back in King's Landing, and we've got Tywin's funeral, and the scene with Loras and Oliver where Marjorie kind of walks in and makes herself comfortable, which I thought was hilarious. I've not got a great deal to say about these two scenes. I think you've probably got more to say than I have. I thought that it was interesting to see Lancel. He looks like, to me, he looks like he's put weight on since becoming Sparrow.
Absolutely. He's supposed to be like far frailer.
Yeah, it's not the way it works, is it? So yeah, I'll pass over to you on this one because I know that you've got a bit to say on these two scenes.
Lancel did. I guess the first thing I'll say, and I forgot to mention it with Robin, but there's two instances of Robin and Lancel as a sparrow. These two bird references, and both times, what's said is maybe they'll grow out of it. Littlefinger, I think, is the one that says it about Robin, and Cersei says it about Lancel. Maybe they'll grow out of it. And it's this concept of little birds, which of course I attribute to Varys and whispering. So again, that's that broad, strange concept in my head of things that we do when we spill secrets about the books out into the interweb. But it's just very interesting that two bird references, and maybe they'll grow out of it. I found kind of strange. Lancel, like Tyrion's been transformed. He's different, but the thing that worries me is he sees all this. He thinks he's righteous now, but he's more possibly in this cult-like environment where he's just being influenced by others, which I rally against to the end of my days. And so his scenes were kind of strange because he has this righteous intent, but he's being controlled somehow. And I find that kind of upsetting. What about Loras and I don't know who the other guy is, and Marjorie?
Oliver.
Okay. I think we've moved on to there. Sorry, my notes just sort of bled into each other.
Anything from that scene?
Did you already talk about it, or are you past it?
I didn't really get anything from that, but I know that you did. So still.
Yeah. When we first watched, I didn't get anything exactly out of it, but then in the rewatches, I do have a lot. There's this conversation about why someone should marry someone else that I was trying to focus on it, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. There's a lot of fast talking and everything like that. But the one thing, and possibly I'm so far off here, but I just loved it because I do have a hint of a theory in my head. And the map of Dorne on Loras's leg is right next to his Tower of Joy. And this is coming from the guy that brought you, the Veil is a Vagina. The Tower of Joy is a dick, is a reference, it is a symbol, and I'm just actually happy that we have the map of Dorne right there, because I think I hope, and I could be so far fucking off, and again, just crazy, but I do like that. I do like that. I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, okay, not getting any. Oh shit! So
it's like Loris's entire body is illustrating the map of Westeros.
Loris's Westeros. Yeah. For sure.
Brilliant.
That's the secret to the whole story. It's Loras is the blue-eyed giant.
Okay. Anything more to say about what's happening in King's Landing at Tywin's funeral?
No, absolutely not.
No. Okay.
Don't believe
Let's
so.
move on to we revisit Tyrion and Varys, where they are kind of trading insults. As I said, that kind of an indication that the tide has changed for both of them. It kind of sets up this concept of a bit of a travelogue, road trip for Tyrion and Varys. Makes me wonder whether or not they'll meet Jorah, possibly. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping so. The one thing that I did take from the trailers, and I know the general concept is Tyrion's going to see a dragon, and that's probably absolutely the case. But in my head, I'm thinking into the books, and I'm pretty certain that there's one moment where we know that Tyrion's going to be looking up, and he's on a boat, but he's going under a bridge, and there's fucking dudes jumping out at him and pulling him down. So I'm just wondering if that was a cut scene or not, and if we will ever see that. I probably shouldn't have jumped into that, but sort of the mention of meeting Jorah, and I hope that we do see that.
Yeah.
One second. Yeah, I don't really have any in-story notes on that scene. What do you think about Varys just plainly directing Tyrion towards Dany rather than anything else? Does it upset you, or?
It just confuses me because it just makes me wonder. We know George has said himself the TV show is different from the books, and there's going to be a lot more departure in this particular season. And maybe you can accuse me sometimes of being a little bit of a book purist. I did come to the books through the TV show, so I appreciate both mediums, but I'm always going to go back to the source material in the books.
Absolutely.
So when there's such a huge departure, then I guess I'm not disappointed. I just get confused because it's like I could quite happily separate what's happening in the TV show to what's happening in the books, and I would put more stock in my enjoyment of the books than I would in the TV show in comparison with each other. Maybe they just haven't got enough time, the resources, the budget, etc., to be able to cover the Blackfire story arc. Maybe it's just a way of streamlining. I think it just changes what we know from in the TV show, though, of what we've seen of Varys previously. I just find the whole thing a little bit confusing. So I suppose we'll see. It might change later on. But yeah,
I'm not too upset or shocked. Personally, my opinion of the books is that the fact that Dany's with Illyrio in the very beginning, I do feel that Varys has her in mind for some part. So maybe we're just seeing that angle. I know it's out. People think that he sent the assassin to kill her. I'm not saying that isn't true, but I do think it's very possible that he also sent a warning as well, which kept her safe. I can't see why Dany wouldn't have been killed by Illyrio at any moment, and what the purpose of wetting the call would have been, and then just to kill her afterwards. I
don't know. To me, I think the fact that we have Varys declaring as a Targaryen loyalist and no appearance of Illyrio when we have seen him. I don't know. Maybe the actor just wasn't available, but we have seen him in the first season, so he has appeared as a character. But just those two things make me think they're going to just cut out the whole Blackfire story arc, and the appearance of
condense it somehow, for sure.
I don't know though. We'll see.
You have your father's instinct for politics, and you have compassion. I don't know if that refers to Tywin or possibly Ares, if you want to go with that theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm good to move on if you are. I don't really have much.
So we go back to Meereen, and we have Dario, who I again thought was a different actor, but you said it was the same one.
Yeah, when you said that, to me, because of what we talked about, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and I thought I don't think it. I mean, I don't know. You said you. I don't know if you've looked into it, but it was the same. It's the same actor who's appeared on both seasons. He just looked different to me, and I thought, blimey, is this the third incarnation of Dario that we're going to get? And when I mentioned that to you, I think we had a bit of a laugh about maybe that's a symbolism for Dario being a faceless man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Absolutely. If it was a third actor playing that, I would have. Is there a Dario faceless man theory out there? Does somebody have it?
There's a Dario could be Euron theory.
Okay. But yeah, when you said that, I was like, that would be a great fucking way for the show to create a faceless man. Yeah. Put in a different actor each season, but sadly, he is only the second actor in both seasons.
So to the characters in the show, it's the same person, but every time we see Dario, he looks different.
Yeah.
Well, to me, anyway. To me, I think we see him kind of berate her a little bit for the mother of dragons without her dragons is no queen, so he's kind of pushing her a little bit, and she goes down to the sort of dungeons, crypts to visit them. Now they're massive, so that was a big whoa. So they've grown enough to be the size to be ridden by the end of the season, I would think. I mean, they're going to be upset with Mum here. They she locked them away, they're going to be a bit pissed off if there's this kind of symbiotic relationship. But I just think, would they snub her that much? If I mean, I don't. I've read The Princess and the Queen, and I've read the the Dance with Dragons, and the relationship that target people with Targaryen blood have with the dragons. And I just thought, even if they were pissed off with her, they would still recognise that bond. And it just made me question. I mean, I think she is Targaryen, but it just made me question: has she got Targaryen blood if they're kind of snubbing her so badly? But I mean, that's debatable because she locked them away, and they're bound to be a bit pissed off with her. So that's
And
the only thing I got from that.
whichever dragon it was, like, snapped at her, but it did sort of pull back and lay off. I mean, if it wanted to, I think it could have. But at the same time, they're just like, get the fuck out of here. You locked us in here. We ain't happy with you. So back up, bitch.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a bit of teenage petulance.
Could be.
Which is understandable. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you if there was anything else that you got from that scene that you wanted to mention.
So we're going to get into a weird place here, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but first of all, with Dany, this isn't a weird place, by the way, but we have Dario telling her you need to learn to respect their traditions and stuff. If you're going to conquer, if you have to learn to accept traditions, religion, you shades of gray. Just because it's not yours doesn't mean that they're not allowed to have it. So it's an important lesson for her to learn.
Yeah.
Now, the parallels here that I see are back from when Cersei and Jaime are in the Sept of Baelor. Jaime's warning Cersei about they're all our enemies out there. They want to try to take it from us. Dario's basically saying it's the same thing. You've made thousands of enemies all across the world. As soon as you slack off, they're going to take it from you. So it's the two things. Cersei at the beginning, she's walking up into the Sept of Baelor. Dany at the end is walking down into the crypts. I don't think that's a coincidence, but I don't exactly know what it means. Generally, you would think somebody ascending would be getting to a place of power, which I don't necessarily think we're going to see happen to Cersei this season. In fact, it's going to be quite the opposite. So Dany going down is confusing for me as well. And I think that was probably all I had to say on that as well.
Okay, so we come to the final scene that wraps up this season opener.
Yes.
Which is back at the wall, and we've got Mance being held prisoner awaiting his execution, and Jon comes to see him, and then we have this horrible scene at the end where it looks like Mance actually dies, which again is a bit of a difference, a departure. The only thing that I would say that jumped out at me as an observation in this scene was when Jon went to visit Mance in the cell, and it kind of felt like a real sort of father-son exchange to me. And when Jon kind of asked him, how can you not be afraid? And Mance said, "Oh, I am afraid, and there's no shame in that." To me, it kind of, because it felt like quite a fatherly son exchange, it just made me smile, because I thought there was a throwback to Ned there when he says, when he's asked, can a man be brave when he's afraid? So Mance was being very brave, and just the scene at the end for me. I mean, this was my, in terms of favourite bits of this episode, this was it at the end. Not because I'm into watching people burn, but just because it was so dramatic. And I think in the books, yeah, we get that and we get the description of that, but I just think seeing something like that happen, I think he's a fantastic actor, the guy who plays
Yeah,
Mance, and it's a
for sure.
shame that we're going to lose him if this is what's happening. If we're going to lose him, it is going to be a real shame. But it just felt really dramatic to me, and it was that kind of it was just horrible, and I really kind of felt for him. So it was, and I can't remember, whether or not that happened in the books. John kind of, getting in there and putting him out of his misery, but it was a real relief for me at the end, and then obviously that's the end of the episode. But what did you get out of that final scene then?
I agree with you about the fatherly bit and um, the oh, I am afraid, but there is no shame in that. That's absolutely true. Mance isn't going to kneel, which noble. He has his cause. He's sticking to it. So that is great. He just wants the freedom to make his own mistakes. I think everybody can say that.
Yeah.
What I got mostly was Mel, and you have light or darkness, good or evil, yada yada yada. And you have to choose one or the other. I disagree with that. You don't have to choose one or the other. You should look for that gray area, and
Yeah.
you can have opinions, but you have to learn how to accept other people's opinions. And this goes back to Dany. They will have to learn to see things a different way. Now she's saying it from a place of power, so it's not necessarily the same context as I'm saying it in, but we as society do have to learn to see things a different way. You can't just keep fighting all the time. You have to find the middle ground.
Yeah.
There's a note here that I have, but I can't make sense of it. So I don't know. When John took off, because of what we know from the books and what happens with Mance going, I thought maybe there's going to be, I was like, is there a fucking water tower, at Winterfell, and all of a sudden it's going to crash and put out the fire or something like that. Never mind the fact that it would have been frozen solid. So yeah, I didn't remember anything about the arrow either, and I actually asked you if that happens in the books, but I was watching Kraken's video and they said that it does. So
Yeah.
So, but yeah, absolutely, putting him out of his misery, and that last little look between them was great.
Yeah. So I've told you what my favourite bit is, the end, which I thought was uber dramatic, particularly the scene with, because I just really felt it, and you kind of almost sort of like this through half a hand, kind of looking through, it was unbearable just the thought of it. So I suppose in terms of dramatic, the response it got from me, that would have been the favourite bit. What about you? Have you got a favourite scene?
Yes, and originally it would have been that scene, and I toss and turn between, but because you just said it, I'll go to Janelle. And first, I do want to say that yes, when that fire was burning up and his acting there, and just sort of seeing this suffering of like this is coming, but like that's a horrible way to die. But my favorite scene is the second scene with Tyrion and Varys, and Tyrion gets his new mission. He's going to get a goal. Now, what happens to him along that road to Meereen is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I do believe that.
Well,
And I hope.
I'm hoping.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Well, I was just going
I
to
was
say.
just going to say I'm I'm hoping that we do. Surely we will. We will see several episodes of Tyrion's journey, rather than we get to the next episode and he's just magically appeared in Meereen. I hope that isn't the case.
No,
and we get some
accurate,
adventures.
I'm
It
sure.
can't be, because in the trailer we see him seeing the dragon in the sky, and it looks like he's
Possibly.
on some kind of boat. Yeah. So fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
I'm hoping that there's actually still some more to be shown in Pentos. I mean, we don't necessarily know that they're leaving right away. Illyrio may make an appearance. I don't know. Probably not. It seems that we're moving full steam ahead. But so be it. Let's do it.
I would just round up by saying that for me, the key points that emerge from this episode to kind of inform us of what we might expect going forward is in terms of storylines developing. So there's obviously going to be there's a conflict brewing there in Meereen around the Sons of the Harpy. So we're going to be focusing on that, I think, in Meereen. The fighting pits as well. So all of the kind of the politics that happened in Meereen looks like some of that's going to be represented in the TV show. But it's skipping around quite a lot in this season. We've got some from Storm of Swords, we've got some from Feast, we've got some from Dance, and then potentially as we go forward, we're going to get into unknown Winds of Winter-ish type territory.
Yeah, it's
the other storyline that I think we can expect as viewers as we go forward developing is this kind of creepy sparrows, religious zealot kind of element. And I absolutely agree, they do seem quite cultish. So that's going to be interesting.
Speaking of that, I'll go, and we didn't mention it earlier, but the title of the show is, of course, The Wars to Come, which I thought was like the best title for this episode, leaving down. But we do have Matt saying it at the end, good luck in the wars to come. Varys says good luck in the war to come. He doesn't pluralize it to Tyrion. And the concept of wars, we have what appears to be a religious war brewing with the sparrows and the cults, and of course, R'hllor and the old gods. So there's going to be this sort of religious war battle. You can probably equate Dany and the Sons of the Harpy in, I don't know whether or not religion, but tradition sort of battle there. So we have White Walkers, of course, and the battle for the Iron Throne. So there are lots of battles still to come. And I think that's some of the stuff that I'm most looking forward to. Not just one great big climactic battle, but lots of little tiny ones there.
And also, so we have Varys saying this to Tyrion and Mance saying it to Stannis as well up at the wall.
Yes.
I wish you good fortune in the wars to come.
Yes.
So yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to keep it at 3. I'm just thinking, actually, did I enjoy the episode now that I've talked about it more than I actually thought? But I'm going to keep it at 3 links. I'm going to be mean and keep it at 3 links. I think I've probably enjoyed talking about it with you more than I enjoyed watching it. But as I said, it's a season opener, so I have high hopes as we go forward. Particularly, Tyrion on tour. I'm looking forward to watching that develop. The final thing that I would say is I did notice that there were several references to the word mercy. I think there were at least 2 or 3, and I just wanted to make note of that mercy pops up from time to time as a concept, but also we know what's going to be happening in the future as well. So yes, I'm looking forward to Bravos. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I wouldn't say it made me. I'm excited to watch it just because I'm looking forward to it. This particular episode didn't make me as excited as possibly it could have done, but I'm more than happy with its performance as a season opener. So yeah, that's kind of wrapped things up.
I agree. And again, on an entertainment value, sheer first watch enjoyment, 2.5. I think it was the worst opener ever, but when you dig deep into it, I'm still sticking with 4. And again, I think probably usually I'm going to have to rate on two different scales, one for entertainment and the second one for what I end up getting out of it. So still a 4. Thank you
Okay.
very much for joining me.
Well, no problem, no problem. I think about the links and how you will want to think about it. I would point out no half links. You can't have a half link, so you're going to have to make a decision between one or the other. Them's the rules.
That is a very good point. No half link. I like that. I like that.
Okay, so we will.
I touch on the Cersei, or not Cersei, but Dany mentioned of they'll have to learn to see things differently. This is going to be my hope going through with my reviews of the TV show on this channel, and it's just to show you guys how I see things. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to even be interested in it. It's what I'm going to be putting out there. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you listen to it. But that's essentially what it is. I think of things a slightly different way, I imagine, and it's all I got to offer, but I'm happy to do it and embrace the pain.
Yeah, and I think we're happy to embrace the pain.
Yes, and I promise it will not hurt too much.
It's not too painful.
It isn't.
Okay.
It really isn't.
So I will see you next week, and looking forward to episode 2. See you then.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. I think I'm on camera now. I'm not sure. I can see myself. Thank you very much for being here. It was a thrill having you, and I will see you very shortly, and hopefully next weekend as well. Hopefully we will get this up sooner without technical difficulties, and I appreciate it. And without you being here, I don't think I'd be actually able to do these reviews. Even just starting this with you was pain enough just to get myself going into this. So thank you, Claire. Thank you very much. And
it's a pleasure. You're welcome.
See you all later. Thanks a lot. Bye.